for listening to or watching the Creative Assembly podcast, a podcast about creatives and their process for creatives who want to make stuff. Hi, I'm Cené. I write shows about religion, sing songs about dildos, and make up stuff in front of audiences to show people that it's possible to create a life that's rad. On this show, you'll learn all about other people's creative processes so that you can discover your own. Step 1 is easy. All you gotta do is sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Today, I am interviewing Sacha Hoedemaker. He is a highly sought-after, self-taught pianist and composer, and, well, I will let him tell you. In today's episode, we'll break down how watching TV can help you become a better musician, why your first edit is often your best one, and why sometimes you have to get the job to know that you can do the job. All that and so much more on today's episode. Thanks for being here. And just to tell everybody what we're doing. So we're quarantined, obviously, for, coronavirus. And I wanted to just interview people about their creative process and see what it is that they do and how they do what they do. Because as creatives, we all, I think, have a lot of the same struggles, even across different mediums. And we all are trying to accomplish the same goal, which is we want to make stuff. So this is the first episode in my interview series, who my boyfriend so generously agreed to do this with me, and it's very convenient also because we live in the same house.
That's true.
Yeah. So my first question is, will you tell people your name and what you do and why you do it?
And why? My name is Sacha Hoedemaker. I am a music director, and most of all, a musician. So I love making music. Started doing it at a young age, and I noticed that I really enjoyed like improvising and just doing whatever. So anything goes, basically.
Well, like, what does that mean on a if we were to see you improvising, what does that look like to us?
Well, either it's at home, but mostly it's at a theater called Boom Chicago, where there's a scene happening, and the scene might take place in, let's say, Paris, and it's a couple about to break up. So you can see that they're very sad or like on the brink of sadness. One person might be happy, so you have to find a way to then score that. And so basically, how you do it in how you see it in movies, that's the way that I want to create music, but then live.
So
on the piano.
Like live scoring.
Yes.
Which, for those of you who don't know what Boom Chicago is, it is a comedy theater based in Amsterdam, and they do improv. So when people come on stage for a scene, they're literally making it up as they go, and Sacha is scoring the scene as it's happening. So he's also just making it up as he goes. Yeah. But you do a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah, it's true. Well, obviously I have a studio here, so I compose a lot. And what else? Yeah, basically anything that has to do with music and creativity. How when people write songs, I'd like to help them form that idea. So basically turn other people's story into music. That's really what I love doing. Oh wait, and why do I do it? Because I love music. That's but why do I chose this? It sort of chose me. I got the opportunities, and through gratitude and gratefulness, basically, I decided, well, I'm going to continue with this path because it makes me feel good. And that's the most important thing. Like, if it makes me feel good, then I continue doing it.
Yeah. Will you also tell people, because I know this story, but other people don't know this story, is how you started playing piano in the first place and how you ended up becoming a musician?
So I started lessons. So I had piano lessons when I was 8 and I was living in Bussum, a small town, and I had piano lessons for 2 years. And I didn't really enjoy it that much, and I didn't know why. I loved playing and I loved the teacher, but the combination for some reason didn't really fly.
So what did you do?
So I stopped for 3 years, or 2 or 3 years, and then when I was 13 or 12 or 13, I decided, well, I'm just going to pick it back up. So there was this old. We used to have MIDI files, and you would be able to like convert those into notes on the piano, and I would play them half speed and try to write down as much as I could. And I basically taught myself like how to then play. And then when I was about 14, 15, I was like, I felt that I could do more. And so I signed up for the musical in my high school, with it Chicago, and favorite musical ever. But I was just so happy, and so like that made me so inspired. And so yeah, that made me really dive into music and its theory, and I got it, which meant, oh, this is something that I really enjoy doing and have a lot of fun with. So, yeah.
Also, self-taught. This, to sum up, self-taught musician, and he's very, very good. Do you work full-time as a creative?
Yes.
Okay, and what does that look like?
What does it look like? Well, I basically have a very long to-do list that is constantly being interjected with other things. So I compose for advertisements, for instance, and those projects come and they have to be done yesterday. So you need to drop everything off your to-do list, and that's going to be the main prio. And usually I'm pretty good with, I wake up in the morning, have breakfast, look what there is to do, make a list of 2 or 3 projects that I want to work on that day, and then I try to schedule my time like that for those 2 projects, or 3, or maybe it's just one long one, or maybe it's just writing emails. But at the end of the day, I want to have at least completed a couple.
And these projects could be like anything.
That could be anything, yeah.
Paid or unpaid?
Paid. Most of them are paid. I always want to do at least one paid project, because I do think that's important to have. I mean, I don't really. I can allow myself now to not really work for free anymore, unless I really want it. So to go back on that, is like I love being. Helping people, and so sometimes I choose to do something for free, but that rarely happens nowadays, because at the level that I am right now. And so and then it's roughly 6 or 7, I go to the theater and then I perform.
The Ad Boom,
yeah. That's every day from Wednesday through Sunday. So
your main sources of income are commercial work, Boom, and
all the side projects.
Which are, like, for example, like what?
Which is, for instance, teaching. I don't teach a lot of musical improv anymore, but I used to do that a lot. But it can be with artists, playing for artists, for singing workshops. Yeah, a lot of different projects. So I produce for people. I create piano tracks. So for people who are singers or flutists or whatever you can think of, if they like want to practice on something, I can create this backing track for them, and then they can they can practice with that, or they can record it and use it in or have it and use it in a studio session, for instance. So
how do you find your clients?
Yeah, that's a hard question, because I have had basically only word of mouth marketing so far. everything I've done is either through somebody else who I've met there, or at a different gig, or at Boom, or so it's always one thing leads to the next thing, and I because I've been so diverse in my work,
Mhm.
I've also been able to sort of been introduced into many of these networks and many different in many circles. So I feel like that's, to me, is what really helped me get a word of mouth marketing out there. And then slowly I'm starting to get more and more business through my website. And just random emails of people who ask me to do stuff for them. Yeah.
Who was the first person that you remember paying you for playing music? Or do you remember what it was for?
Yeah. That was for 10 euros. 10 whole full bucks. A whole afternoon. I think I was 15 or 16 or something. And I really enjoyed that. But we barely got paid, of course. We were basically accompanying singing lessons. So we would get a list of numbers. And I'm still doing that, but then for slightly more money now, and for a slightly bigger kind of event.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that was also one of the one of those gigs that you really learn a lot about how to accompany and how to listen to singers, and I think that helped me a lot because I did that quite a lot. So
yeah, 10 euros.
10 euros, keep stacking it up.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I mean, that's what's paying for this quarantine right now.
Yeah. That 10 euros from a really long time ago.
It's 15 years ago. Yeah.
It's more than 15, wasn't it?
Yeah, 15.
Oof, we're getting old. Okay, what was the turning point for you in your life where you knew, or you at least considered that you could do music like as a job, or like for real, or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I studied biomedical sciences, and I remember being in during my bachelor, being in class, and I was not feeling it as much. I kept going, started doing my master's, got an internship, and I noticed like this is not gonna be it for me. At that time, I was playing maybe once a week for either an improv group called Easy Laughs, and some theater sports. I was playing some theater sports. At some point, I remember, on a random Sunday, I was joining a workshop from Easy Laughs, hosted by Jessica Lowe, and she worked at Boom, and so she said, "Hey, you're really good. You should come check it out at Boom." I was like, "Yeah, sure. What's that? I don't know." And I went there, and it turned out to be my audition, and they liked me, so they hired me. So that was while I was doing my master's, and then suddenly I had the opportunity to play a bunch for a really cool theater and finish my master's. And then I chose that, and I chose to really invest my time into the improv part of my life, and that grew and I learned a lot, and now we're 10 years further, and this is where I am now.
Yeah, so it really wasn't like, oh, I can do this, up until you got a job doing it.
Yeah, basically I really need, because I was working since I was 20. I already, my main source of income was music, but I was just taking in student loans, and I wasn't really working. I also worked as a waiter during that time, but mostly as a background pianist, for instance. And I played in a bunch of in elderly homes, like nursing homes and stuff for elderly people, but you can't do that for money, obviously. That was really just because I loved playing, and people asked me, and I said yes. So when I decided, when I chose sort of to go and invest in myself as an improv musician, that's when I realized, no, this is possible. And even though I might not make as much, I am enjoying the shit out of it. Yeah.
Did you just beep yourself?
I did.
know. What was your first investment into yourself? As a
Mostly
musician?
time.
Ooh, what does that look like?
Yeah. So mostly because I remember sitting in my house and realizing, oh yeah, you actually have a job as a musician now. So you better step it up. You better deliver. And so I started watching movies and listening to their like soundtracks and stuff. And then I did this with a couple of episodes of a series. I can't remember which series now. But I remember turning the sound off and then scoring those series. So in that way, I sort of invested a lot of time, and I was watching TV at the same time. But that's
Hey,
mostly whatever works.
that's very innovative.
Yeah. No, indeed. And I would go outside, and there was this. I remember that was very funny. I remember it was. We live in Amsterdam, so it's raining a lot, and there was this really stormy night or stormy evening. And I remember the light was really cool, and I could sit behind the piano and look outside, and I saw like a bunch of bikers biking very heavily through the rain, and I remember. Scoring that image for like a good 15 minutes. And that's also a moment of like, oh, this is really fun to do. I should do more of this. And I was cat sitting, so I would score the cats all the time. And like, that's really how I learned how to do my job.
I love that. I didn't know that you used to score the cats. You were watching.
I'm great at scoring cats.
Might have to put you to the test later. When did you know you were good?
I still don't. No, that's like good. I mean, acceptable is more a term I would like to use.
Okay, when did you accept that you were better than average?
I think when I got my first international gig, basically.
Which was what?
Which was with Kelly in Brussels. They asked me over for which was really cool because that's where I got to learn, got to meet Trent Pansy, who is a phenomenal improviser and just the best guy. And he was there teaching a musical workshop, but they needed a musician. And so Kelly asked me to come from Amsterdam to be their musician for the weekend. And I remember like being on the train realizing this is real now. Like I'm in a train now. I'm being paid to sit on a train for a couple hours to go somewhere where I'm gonna have fun, and I know that I can do a great job, and I'm gonna do everything for them to have an amazing experience. And that led to me then being flown to Finland even further. So, you know, that's the moment I think when I went to Brussels, the first international gig that I had. I mean, that's the first one that comes to mind. So I think that's the most important one. Sorry. There was one before.
But I mean, if that one was the one that was the most memorable, that was the one that made you feel or made you realize that, oh, I can do this. This is something that's very possible for me.
And then every time after that feeling always was strengthened. I feel like a lot of people, which I myself am a victim of as well, every time that doesn't happen, that takes you down more than the good things lift you up. So, you know, whenever you have this rut of like, oh man, I haven't moved in a while, like I'm stuck, I'm just doing the same thing, even though it's like creative and fun, but it still can feel like we call it slur in Dutch. It's like just a routine kind of way, like a boring routine. Slur. Whenever that happens, you know, you need a couple of positive affirmations sort of to feel like you can do it again. So, you know, luckily I found a way to like inspire myself and to
That leads me to my next question then.
Yeah.
When you do get into those slurs,
very good.
into those like places where you feel kind of stuck, how do you get out of it for you? What are the things that help you inspire yourself to get out?
Do something completely different, even if it's for 5 minutes. I need, because a lot of the work that I do is like 10% creative, and then the rest is just execution. And so whenever I've done the creative part, that's the execution time. So that for me sort of is a resting period. But then to get back into the creative part, because I've been in such an execution mode, sort of, I need something in between there. So I either like lay on the bed for 5 minutes, or walk around, or like eat something, or I just have to be in a different space thinking about something else. And I think that's what's getting me creative again. And even if it's like listening to some other music or reading something, it could be anything, but it's just it has to be something away from the project that I'm currently focused on.
So what if you were in a rut that lasted for weeks? What would you do then?
I haven't had that, to my recollection. I don't think that I've...
You're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Like, I feel really lucky being able to have a switch for myself. Like, I can go outside, walk through the door, and be like, okay. And it doesn't matter how I feel. I can then turn it on again. And that I feel really lucky being able to do that. It might not mean that the most creative thing is going to happen at that moment as soon as I turn it on, but it does get me in this mindset of like, no, I'm just going to do something now towards the creative part. And then from that action leads creativity, because like then I can sort of steer myself towards creativity, because something might inspire me, or I give up and then and then try again the next time. Like I think improv, for instance, has a lot like the fact that I have to perform every show and I have to improvise. So that means there is only one shot, like Eminem says. One opportunity.
Only one shot. Do not miss your chance.
Yeah, you do have to just go. That's helped me as well with being able to like just go. Your attempt is the best result at this moment.
You said something interesting, that you have your creativity period and then you have an execution period.
Yeah.
So how do you then define what's creative and then what belongs in execution? How do you know what's the difference between those two?
Yeah. It's very funny. Every time I'm like this, so like
that
on
being
a piano,
your piano?
that's when I'm creative. And any time that I'm not, let's say 95% of that is execution. Then the creative part comes from usually misclicking something. So like I wanted to do this and instead I did something else, or I'm scrolling through like effects or things, or just like trying to come up with something that's in my mind at that moment that requires some creativity. But it's really dependent on where my position is. If I'm in front of a screen, I can be creative. If I'm in front of my piano, my instrument, that's when I'm creative.
That's interesting that you say that, because in my mind, even when you're at your screen and I'm watching you in the like software programs that you're using, to me you're still being creative because you're creating something from nothing. But for you, it's not the same experience.
No, not at all. No, because I have it in my mind. Like that's where, like when I'm at my piano, that's where it happens. Sort of what I want, what is in my brain to come out. and then the whole story around that sort of gets created there. Then when I turn around, I just execute that idea that I had there. So it's still in my mind, but I'm like executing it into, that's where it should go. So like if I'm playing with the groove, like this snap, that's already going. So if I'm just playing that, so I'm thinking about that snap. So I add the snap, and then if I want to add the bass drum to it, or if I want to do something like any instrument, that usually happens while I'm playing. That sort of idea forms then.
So then how do you define creativity? What does that mean to you? What is it?
It's creativity is the creation of an idea to me. So creativity is coming up with anything, full stop.
Okay.
Coming up with anything.
So it's with something that didn't exist.
Something that could have existed, but something that from a concept gets formed into an idea. It could be tangible, but it could also just be a formed idea that you then write down or execute in a sense with music, for instance.
Okay, so then what's execution for you?
Execution is the translation or transducing, as we want to call it in audio terms, of the idea then into the product.
And the product being the recording.
Yes.
What time of day do you have the most energy?
5 a.m. Yeah, no, like
you're not up at 5.
I'm if I work at 1 a.m., like sometimes I have to start working at 1 a.m. because after the show I have to come back and I have to wind down. But because I have that adrenaline rush, sort of get this extra energy spike, and I know it's not healthy, but that's usually when I do my best work. When I can follow through on anything. Yeah.
You feel like it's after shows?
Yeah, after shows. Because I know that before shows there is a deadline. And so I'm working towards that deadline of like, now I need to go. But I don't have that limitation when there is no deadline. And I just want to see the end of the project. I want to see what it looks like. So if I'm working on a song, then when I start at 1, depending on how much work it is, I can finish at 3, I can finish at 2, but I can also finish at 6. And I love that. I don't know. Yeah, that's like that openness, the freedom, that then I can just unjudged, I can just be myself and just go. And that's really cool. Yeah,
that's interesting because I know a lot of people that they work better with deadlines, but for you it seems to be the opposite. Is what I'm hearing you say. It's like if you don't have a deadline, then actually you just want to see what happens to get to the end of a project.
Yeah.
So how do you know when you're at the end?
Yeah. That's usually it is when time runs out. The thing is that after you've done what you've wanted to do, you need to listen to something else. You need to go become a different person in a way, and then re-listen to what you've made. And if you can spot anything that is off, you need to get back into it. So
give me an example.
So what I've had of like, okay, I'm happy with the way that it sounds, and there was this song that I was mixing, and I thought I was done and really happy with it, but I saved it and I exported it, and so it is like an MP3 or a WAV file, and then I went away, made some dinner or something. And I listened to it again because I always, listen to it before I send it somewhere. And I noticed something was off. I didn't quite get what, but there was something off with the vocals. And normally I would be like, oh, okay, well, this is where it is now. But nowadays, and I think that's important, is to really critically listen again, and fix that. But only once, because once, for at least for me, because that is your first listen. And so after a while, so that is the time when you're most sort of, when new information will still hit your like critical brain or something like that. It's like after you've listened to it a couple times, that's when you start really diving too deep into something. For instance, that's for me, for my creative process. I think for like, for instance, for writers, it's the same thing. Like if you're writing something, you have to sort of write the whole draft and you're happy with it, and like, okay, you're done with it. But the best thing to do is in that sense, for me, would be to go read the newspaper, something dry or something like a sign on the road, and then you come back, you read through it with a pen, and you just mark everything that feels off. You fix those things. That's it. That's your end product. Because otherwise you go too deep. Because you need something like the first time that you read it, your audience, your client's audience, whatever you call it, they're also going to read it for the first time. So they're going to have the same kind of criticism as you would during that, because they also haven't gone word for word to think about like, oh, but how does this, because I know what's coming, or you have a different mindset if you've listened or read something over more than once. And you should keep that into account when finishing a project.
Yeah.
Long answer. That's
but good answer. Describe the type of environment that you prefer in as much detail as possible, the type of environment you want to work in. And so like what colors would you want in your ideal environment? What smells, what sounds, that kind of thing?
I want a warm, fuzzy, like reddish glow, because that really contrasts with sort of my thing, my color.
What do you think your color is?
My color is blue and green.
And what does blue-green mean to you that is separate from red? And
I feel like that's the sort of yin and yang of me, sort of. So I have this blue, like the ocean, and then the red, the fuzzy, the warmness. That's my fire, in a way.
So you want your environment to feel like fire.
Yeah.
I like it. Because
it gets me pumped up.
Yeah.
Gets my blood cooking.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Do you like to work on several projects at a time, or do you like to take one project, finish it before you start the next one?
I like working at multiple projects at the same time, because I think it's important to, if you're stuck with one, go to the next one, because the thing that might have gotten you stuck in one might fix the other, or an insight might help you with another project. So if you have multiple projects at the same time, you can like really easily just navigate that. You need a sort of system for it, obviously, but I think that's important.
So what advice would you give people who do have a lot of projects, and I'm speaking from personal experience, who tend to noodle in each project and never quite finish any of them?
Yeah, is breaking them down.
Into what?
Into smaller pieces. In however you can, but there's always a way to from start to finish do half. If that's too much, turn that half into 4 quarters, and work on those and see how far you get. If you're stuck, you move on to the next, or allocate time. Like those two, that's the only way, basically. But if you're stuck and if you're noodling and like, well, no, I'm not, I don't want to do this, I also don't want to do this, then you just have to make a decision, and that's force yourself to like it, because you're going to like the process. It's the same as like going, I don't know, yeah, when you're a child, you would go places and you like, but I don't want to go in the car with my mom. I don't want to go do groceries with my mom, and like, you know, you're the whole car way there, you're like sort of complaining, and then once you're in the grocery store, you see your friend, and you're like, oh wait, that's awesome, he's there as well, or she's there as well, and oh, we both get a toy from our parents. Okay, well, that's okay, well, I guess I had a fun time, or not, doesn't matter, but you still went and you still did it. So I like, you just have to go through it. That's it.
Do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
Nike has the best slogan. Like, it is really, it really cuts everything. It's like, once, if you're stuck, work on something else. If you're not stuck and you can't decide what to do, just do it. What it is doesn't matter. But because I notice once you get an engine started, it's much harder to break it down or to slow down, sort of.
Objects in motion. Objects in motion.
Newton was right.
Newton was right.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to work from your imagination or observation?
Observation, I think. Yeah, it's just improv. Like, I like supporting ideas, other people's ideas. If I create something myself, I usually start from inspiration by, could be a word, or it could be by listening to similar artists, or looking at images that inspire me in some way. So, yeah.
So either
it's always observation.
Yeah, either visual or audible.
Auditive.
Auditive. Yeah. How do you capture and record your ideas?
In a to-do list.
Which is what kind of to-do? Is it on your computer? Is it in a notebook?
I got one in my I got one in my phone. I got one on my computer, and one in my head.
And are they all different, or are they kind of all the same thing?
Overlap, but like, I make sure to update the one in the phone first.
Okay.
And then the one in the, like, for the whole day or for the whole week is sort of on my computer one, and then in my head is whatever during the day pops up.
And then do you add that? How do you decide what to add to what list?
Usually within the project, the to-do lists are in my head, so that just stays there. That attention span is fine. But if it is really something new that has to be done, like sending an email or something, I'll add that to my phone immediately.
Okay.
So I don't have to avert my eyes from my screen if I'm working on the screen, for instance.
What kind of music do you like to listen to?
Musicals, funk, fusion, soul, hip hop, and whatever inspires me at that point. Like, how do I feel, or yeah.
How do you know when you've been inspired?
If I turn around. So if I start looking at the piano, that's when I know, oh, ding, there's the bell, there she is. So yeah.
There she is. I like that your muse is a lady.
Of course.
Do you have any habits or rituals that you like to do before you start working?
Have a coffee on the balcony.
Good one. When do you come up with your most creative ideas?
My most creative ideas come when I'm free in my mind, and that means whenever I've done what I needed to do. Yeah, when I've done what I needed to do and just sit there.
Needed to do being like what?
Like if I'm done with the to-do list or something, and I start just it's sort of like the cooling down period of your workout. So that's actually my most creative period, and that's usually when new things of future projects mostly get originated from.
Interesting.
So whenever I'm cooling down,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I start freeing myself up, because I'm sort of erasing what I've done the rest of the day by doing something else.
Yeah.
And that's usually when new stuff gets created all the time.
It also makes sense for when you were saying earlier, you have your most, you do your best work after you come home from a show.
Yeah.
Because it essentially is like a cooling off period.
Yeah.
Because you just had that high of performing and now it's kind of waning.
Yeah. And in a way, I think that also sort of that inspires a lot of the future projects. And sometimes it's just, oh wait, I can use that for the project that I wanted to work on tomorrow, and then I'll start working on that, and then I freed up some time the next day.
If you broke your creative process down into stages, what are those stages?
That's a hard question. No, it's 2 lines, and one line is just go now, and it's just a straight line against the ceiling, which is my creativity.
Okay.
And that's just a go, but I can only do that for, let's say, one night, a full night, sort of. I can't do that the whole day because it just ruins me then. And then if I have to do a whole day, my creative process is, it's hard. The question is quite hard, but I think it is fun, as in that it starts with fun.
Okay.
That's the first phase. Then it starts with erasing. So whatever was fun, I'll try to condense the most fun of it. Okay. I'll try to condense that and take that out.
Yeah. Take out the most fun, or keep the most fun and
keep
take
the
out
most
the rest?
Fun. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Take out the most fun and put it somewhere safe. Put it in a box. Sort of guard that with your life and a dragon. And then from that, that's when sort of the blooming happens. So I have from that, sort of the box with the most fun. Mm-hmm. There's little sprouts coming, and so all those sprouts form a sort of a web around the most fun. Mm-hmm. In a way. I keep doing that until we have a fully formed web, and then I build a balloon or a circle around it to finish it off.
So like those sprouts are like, do you kind of go back to like the original, oh, this is fun, based off of what was happening in this original most fun thing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Until you feel like your thing is big enough that you can seal it off.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but it's sealed off from it's a circle. It's like it's a box.
Yeah.
Then that's how I see it. Then it's a web sort of that goes all directions sort of around the box, and then there's one circle to close it.
Close it all. It's like a dream catcher.
It is. Yeah, very much.
Well, that's what it sounds like you're describing to me.
You can pop a picture. Boom. Dream.
What is your morning routine? The one that you want to have and the one that you actually have.
my ideal morning routine would be wake up, take a shower, do a little bit of like meditation or like a little just relaxing, and then like pump myself up physically, and then immediately start working.
Okay. And what's your actual?
My actual routine is I fall out of bed and I crawl to the studio and I turn on things, and then I'm turning it on and I walk to the kitchen, grab a cup of coffee, sit on the balcony, and then decide what's the first thing I should do.
And how much of that involves your cell phone?
Good 80%.
Just falling out of the phone.
I can't.
What about evening routine? Ideal versus actual?
Evening routine. Ideally, I would close everything down, take a shower, brush my teeth, go to bed, turn on my light, read 30 pages, fall asleep.
So that's ideal.
Yeah, but what actually happens is I'll be done for today. I don't want to continue anymore. I go on the couch, watch Netflix, then go to bed and just scroll on my phone for like 3 hours until I have had enough, and put my headphone in and just listen to a podcast about the universe, and then fall asleep.
I mean, that sounds nice too.
It is also very nice. Neil deGrasse Tyson is fantastic.
That was my next question. What are sort of like podcasts, books, whatever that you like to read and reference? Just some recommendations, like top 3
from a song, like for music.
Anything.
Or for creativity.
Could be anything.
I think Sam Harris is interesting. He is a very smart individual. Talks about basically everything philosophy.
Is this a podcast?
It's a podcast. The podcast Star Talk about the universe, I really enjoy. The podcast 20,000 Hertz about sound and audio, which is really interesting. And the writer is, and that's about songwriters and their creative process, which is really interesting. And their life as well. And then I think the books that I read or I'm inspired by are Malcolm Gladwell. I really like Blink. It fits well because it's really the first 2 seconds of something and your actions to those first 2 seconds really determine a lot. For the eventual outcome of something, no matter how long it takes. So, if you start a project and you start like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll do this, and then it'll take so much longer than instead you're going, okay, let's go. Bam, start writing. Hello. And
is that why you snap clap all the time?
Snap clap. Ooh. Yeah, that's me.
That's funny. Okay, I'm the last round of questions. I'm gonna ask you and then just answer them as fast as you can.
Yeah.
This is literally taken from James Lipton's Inside the Actor Studio. He's known for these questions. It's just 10 of them.
Yeah.
And just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay?
That also happens in And the Right Race.
They're a great set of questions.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite word?
Komkommer.
What's your least favorite word?
I can't say it.
Yes, you can.
Good.
Great. What turns you on?
Heat.
What turns you off?
Lying.
What sound or noise do you love?
A good voice, like yours.
What sound or noise do you hate?
My own voice. Yeah, but I hate screechy sounds.
What's your favorite cuss word?
Bitch.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Something video, audio, video effects.
What profession would you not like to do?
Construction worker.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Finally.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was our interview for today. Hopefully there are going to be a lot more interviews with a lot more people. Most of them are probably going to be online instead of in person. We just happen to live together during this quarantine. but they will be just as fun and enjoyable. And I hope we see you soon.
Also,
Mm.
construction worker is a really fun job.
That's a
But
quality on it. It is. Nobody's judging it. It's just not for you.
well, actually, yeah, no, maybe it is. I'm rethinking it. But
Are you trying to talk yourself into something you just said
no,
you don't
because
want to do?
I really enjoy putting together furniture and stuff. But it's
That's true. He did build all of our IKEA stuff, even though for some of it we definitely should have hired someone to do it. 'Cause
I did it.
really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening or watching. If you enjoyed this episode, let me know over on Instagram at Cené ATX. Hopefully you'll take what you've learned today and use it to create something of your own, because you owe it to yourself and to us to put your ideas out into the world. Thanks again.